Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. On behalf of the partnerships team, I'm Gillian Kerwin-Lee. Also in our team is Sarah Mathey and Carolyn Monkton. And we also have representatives of our SRC team, being Katrina, Carly and April, our 3 program managers. I'm very proud to welcome you all here today to talk to you more about the outcomes and impacts of the incredible projects that we've been able to support, along with our many partners under the Strengthening Rural Communities program. We regularly hear from our SRC team internally about these wonderful initiatives that have been supported by this funding stream. So it's great to be able to take the opportunity to share these insights with all of you today. As many of you know, Strengthening Rural Communities is one of our flagship programs, and we think one of our most important, offering small communities small grants to support big ideas. And this image in particular is a great example of how a small amount of money can go a long way. In this case, about just under $2,000 to purchase audiovisual equipment for training and educational activities used as a shared resource throughout the community of Rainbow in Victoria. Now, before we go into the rest of the team, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands I am on, Wiradjuri country in central west New South Wales, as well as the lands that you are dialing in from today. I'd also like to thank our Indigenous elders, past, present and emerging, for their continued custodianship and care of our incredible country. A quick snapshot of our agenda today, a little overview of FRRR for those who aren't aware of us and what we do. We'll talk through some of the outcomes of our most recent grants or most recent granting rounds. We'll talk about the importance of small grants and some of the new initiatives that we have recently launched. So at FRRR, our grants are used as seed funding to bring ideas to life where other funding sources may be hard to access. They're used to recover from and prepare for times of disruption, and they're used to innovate, to test, scale and embed game-changing initiatives. But we are also more than just grants. We are a soft landing pad for grantees. We guide them as to how to attain funding from us, to build capacity, and then leverage this funding to go on to do even more. We walk alongside community groups, knowing that they know most about the problems they face and how to overcome those challenges. FRRR seeks to continually learn from the needs of FRRR communities and share our insights to advocate for these communities. And finally, our unique tax status and breadth means we can support a range of initiatives and can be flexible to our partners' needs and those of the grantees we support. And now I'd like to hand over to Carly, who's going to talk through SRC. Thanks, Carly.
Thank you. I'm Carly Whelan, the Program Manager for Victoria, Tasmania and South Australia. I'm coming to you from Dja country in Central Victoria. So I'm just going to present a short overview of what's happening nationally in the small and vital grant stream. So we're seeing a continually strong demand for funding for grants to deliver social services, food and household security, as well as for projects to address the barriers to housing and to improve access to accommodation. So we expect this is going to keep occurring, largely due to those rising costs of living pressures that are exacerbating pressures across the nation. So in terms of numbers, we had over 400 applications for small and vital grants over the last 4 rounds. So that was requesting almost $4 million, and we had a success rate of 45%. So that saw more than 190 grants awarded for projects over $1.5 million. So if you can see the map, most of the funding, the grants have gone to the East Coast mainland states, and that's largely reflective of where the populations are, the applications that are coming through, and also the targeted donor funding we've got in those states. Unfortunately, we had almost $400,000 worth of worthwhile and eligible projects that we were just unable to fund just because of the insufficient program funds. So that's what we'd love to be able to fund more of those projects. I'll just go through an overview of the states that I'm managing, which is the Victoria, Tasmania and South Australia. So if we move to the next slide as it catches up. So we've got consistent demand in the states that I cover for mental health and wellbeing projects. And that includes facilitated mental health training and workshops for community members, creative and therapeutic programs, as well as other wellbeing activities. We are seeing a number of applications coming through for leadership and engagement programs for young people, and that's in the space of skills development to support engagement and re-engagement with employment and education pathways, as well as connection to arts and cultural activities. As always, the need for funding remains really strong for those upgrades to community halls and gathering places, such as neighbourhood and community houses. So that includes projects like installing solar panels at preschools and men's sheds, improvements to kitchens, access ramps for halls and historical societies. That's just some of the projects that we're able to fund through this grant stream. And we know that it makes a really big difference, those small grants, big difference to a community's ability to gather and connect and to support the work of volunteers. And that's also with the equipment to support volunteers as well. I was really lucky to be able to pop into Talbot. This images of the Talbot Arts and Historic Museum, which received just under $7,000 recently. And that was for a project to paint the outside of a donated building from a nearby town. So that was a project that was beyond the capacity and the safety of the volunteers. So they were able to engage someone, and they have reported back to us just how invigorating that has been. It's re-energized the group, and it's really connecting visitors and community members to that piece of history. And finally, with my insights, we are seeing the impacts of those cumulative disasters really impacting on abilities of community groups, particularly the recent flooding late last year and into 2023 across Victoria, parts of northern Tasmania and into South Australia. I'll just discuss my some recent outreach I did on Gundramara country. It was an on-country gathering of Aboriginal community-controlled organisations down in Port Fairy, which is in southwest Victoria. So it's an annual event that sees First Nations groups coming together with philanthropists to build and develop their relationships, to strengthen understanding and to work together on how philanthropy can help the First Nations community-controlled organisations. So it really was an opportunity to yarn together, to sit around the fire, to eat together, to really create these opportunities to share knowledge. So it was really did reinforce the key role that philanthropy plays in funding the gaps, supporting programs, as well as capacity building for these organisations. And pleasingly, I've had a number of follow-up queries for small and vital grants, and hopefully some applications will be coming through. We were also there for the native title determination handing down at Warrnambool for the Eastern Maar people, which was an amazing experience to witness that handing down. I'll move on to talk about some case studies, one case study from each of the states that I manage. So in Creswick in Central Victoria, this local rural health organisation, aged care facility, received $10,000 to purchase and install a innovative interactive games program. And this is largely for people with dementia and cognitive challenges. And it's a really interactive game that engages the residents as well as the visitors that come along in games that really improve mental agility, physical movement and social interaction. So just really active stimulation that's having a really positive impact according to the nursing staff and the feedback from the residents. If we move on to South Australia, this is a recently funded project that's currently being rolled out at the moment. So it's for the Yorke Peninsula and areas north of Adelaide for the local health network. So the $10,000 grant is being used to fund the design and production of health check shirts as a way to incentivise Aboriginal and First Nations people to engage with the local Aboriginal health workers to undertake some vital health checks. So the idea is if you participate in a health check, you receive the really amazingly designed health shirt, and it's to really address those health inequalities, to make sure people undertake the test to have that early detection and prevention, as well as receiving culturally appropriate healthcare, education and treatment as needed. So a really amazing little project there with just a $10,000 grant. And in Tasmania, New Norfolk's Community House, that's just northwest of Hobart, they received $10,000 to improve their facilities, and that was to better meet the needs of the community. So they used part of the funding to build a shower facility, and that's really great for homeless or transient population people to be able to have a shower in a really respectful and dignified way, and also to create an outdoor space for people to gather and meet. And that's really to help with that, reducing socialization and just creating more opportunities for connection. So just a small grant there that went a long way to improving those local facilities. I'll hand over now to my colleague, April. Thank you.
Thanks, Carly. Hello, I'm April Merrick. I'm the Grants Program Manager for New South Wales and ACT. So I'm currently joining you from the land of the Wiradjuri people. I'm in Junee, so I'm actually on outreach sitting in a park in Junee. So hopefully the background noise isn't too loud for you. Yeah, so I'm on an outreach trip this week visiting communities who have been impacted by floods and to connect with projects that we funded in the central New South Wales area. I'll just share some of the insights that I've seen in New South Wales and ACT. So pretty much almost all of the applications that we get from New South Wales communities mention either flood, bushfire, or COVID, or increasing cost of living. And with a high number of those applications mentioning 2 or 3 of those, either disasters or COVID or economic impacts really impacting and having effects on their communities. And it's being felt across all layers of New South Wales communities. It's resulting in an increased demand for community services in the communities, so especially food and housing. And this has resulted in applications that we're seeing from communities with especially those service organisations where they're actually asking for support with strategic planning to figure out how they're going to meet the demand, and also projects to, innovative projects for communities to create food resilience in their communities to support the disasters that have happened and recover from those, but also to support whatever happens in the future. And in the last 12 months, we've seen quite a dramatic increase in applications. I'll share two of really lovely small grants that really show the power of what a small grant can do. So we'll move to the next slide. So this grant, it's a very small grant of $2,860, was given to the Bori Dreaming Women's Group. It's a really wonderful example of a very small grant can have a huge impact for this group. They were a group established as a social support network to provide culturally safe space for First Nations women to gather, talk and share food. They received a donation a year or so ago, or a couple of years ago, of a sewing machine. And it was a hit with their membership, and suddenly their membership just expanded dramatically. So they came to FRRR, and so we supported them with funds so they could purchase 3 more sewing machines and materials to do some craft projects. In their final report, the group said that they made hundreds of items and they're excited about future plans to attend their regular local markets to sell items so they can then fund future projects. They were really happy with how their group had developed through having the extra resources, but it also had a really added meaning because during COVID, they suffered some tragedies in their community, and it provided a much needed source of comfort and fun when they most needed it. It gave them an opportunity to connect, to do something positive, and a chance to be together. But I think one of the most amazing things that's come out of this small amount of funding is that from this group, they're now seen as a group to be consulted on community issues such as health, housing and other matters that impact First Nation people in their region. So that just shows what a very small amount of money can catalyse in a community group. And the second project, this is another small project, so it's only $6,875. And this project enabled the Quandilla Soldiers Memorial Association to support the creation of the town's new tourist attraction. So it's a mural to commemorate those who served in times of war in their area and to celebrate the area's history and achievement, and bring it to the forefront and a place that the community can be proud of. It's a key thing in their main street now. It's a landmark, and it's really improved a key community venue. So everyone's really proud of it. But it's also the murals put the town of Quandilla on the map. So it links them to the local silo and street art trail. The group were barely proud of what's happened, but they really emphasized to us that they're really grateful for the support, and that they said that small grants are really the only way that groups such as theirs can make projects like this a reality. And now I'll pass on to Katrina.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Katrina Beattie. I'm the Grants Program Manager for Queensland, NT and Western Australia. I'm joining you today from Irraganji country, which is just north of Cairns in Queensland. I'd like to acknowledge my Darug people and other First Nations people joining the presentation today, and to recognise all of our elders past, present and future. Some of the insights I'm finding for Queensland, NT and WA, over half of the grants that we are awarding to groups have not previously been funded by FRRR, and the majority of these are also first-time applicants. The success rate for first-time applicants is only slightly higher compared to the overall average, about 3%, which is actually reflecting our expanding reach across these states rather than us intentionally targeting first-time applicants. We're also finding projects supporting First Nations people are higher in Northern Territory, with about 66% of projects, while it drops to 33 in WA and 8 in Queensland. We are seeing that about half of these projects are being delivered directly by First Nations-led organisations. In Northern Territory, majority of grants are going to communities with extremely high levels of disadvantage, also referred to as CFAs of under 5. And half of the projects are intended to be supporting people to develop their awareness, knowledge and skills in new areas. In WA, the vast majority of projects are going to communities with under 5,000 people, and these tend to focus on providing access to services and activities with the intent of promoting individual and community health and social wellbeing. Similarly, in Queensland, majority of grants are going to communities with populations of under 5,000 people. However, we're seeing the projects that tend to be about improving community infrastructure and equipment. Outreach trips are creating a spike in applications for at least 2 rounds following the visit. Community groups are often surprised and pleased with the variety of different kinds of projects that we can fund, not only from Small and Vital, but across FRRR. And we have, they like knowing that we're working in partnership with them to support community identified and led projects. We are hearing that men's emotional well-being is best being addressed with social events that don't directly focus on the issue. Rather, it's about creating connection and reducing social isolation, particularly as communities face ongoing hardship with drought, COVID, fire, floods. A few champion volunteers are featuring on multiple community groups, and they're often driving the work across the whole community, which means that if one person steps away, the impacts are felt across the whole community. This is making succession planning extremely important, but challenging in communities where there's only a small group of people to draw from. Majority of communities are also struggling to keep youth engaged, and we're seeing this reflected in the youth projects that are being delivered across the states as well. In WA and T, about 33% of all projects are supporting children and young people, and in Queensland it's about 23%. Cost of living and food security remains an ongoing concern for these states. Supermarkets are increasing prices to address high transportation and supply costs, and which means fruit and veg is often poor, non-existent, or just totally unaffordable for a lot of people. Next slide, please. So in Queensland, we were able to support the Mulgrave Land and Catchment Group with a $10,000 project. This land care group is actually taking a really broad holistic wellbeing approach to the support for the community. The funding was to support, to employ a community engagement officer and to set up the nursery. And originally the application seemed quite aspirational and they didn't clearly demonstrate the desire from the community for this project. And through us being able to talk to the applicant and ask about that evidence, they supplied this photo up the top, which actually shows the extent of which community was there supporting this group to establish this space as a wellbeing hub for the community in Gordon Vale. And the nursery will not only help with revegetation around the World Heritage Area, but also about supporting the community to continue to develop wellbeing with other not-for-profits engaging through the space as well. The bottom photo, for example, is the local CWA teaching the kids to sew. Next project, please. Sorry, apologies. In NT, we funded the McDonald Regional Council to expand their MIC Youth app to include governance and project management information and functions. So the council's area covers this area the size of England, and across that space, it's got 12 youth boards, which are set up with kids between 11 and 18-year-olds who are there to represent the issues that are important to each of those small communities. Those youth are there to provide advice and ideas to council on how to actually engage the younger people. So the youth board members will learn the process of creating change, but they'll also be involved in the co-design of the expansion of the application so that it can include a new vision for some of the traditional board management practices like minutes and agendas. And the app will also help the youth across those 12 really remote locations to be able to connect in and be able to provide peer support and share what their learnings are across their individual projects. In WA, finally, we've got the Augusta In-District Community Childcare Centre. They received a $10,000 grant for resources for the creation of this service. It supported community volunteers to develop a local solution to the lack of childcare in their community. And they are working to keep the fees as low as possible to help support the working families. Access to childcare obviously has a flow-on effects with economic development as well as financial independence for caregivers. The applicant was actually inspired by the ABC program Old People's Home for 4-year-olds, and so really wanted to look at getting into that intergenerational interaction between kids and seniors staying engaged and active. The local Lions Club was also very supportive of this project, and in anticipation of the centre coming online had funded a couple of school leavers to do a Cert 3 in early childhood. While the group is still working with the local council to secure a permanent home, they've been able to establish a vacation care service, and we're able to work with them to vary their grant to support that change in circumstance for them. And so they've now been able to fund some high quality toys that were long lasting and help create employment for some of the local residents as well. So, for example, they were very excited about being able to purchase green toys with recycled plastic, which have a large variety to inspire the kids' imagination, but then also, you know, you can have the conversation learning about sustainability and teaching those theories and take that outside the sandpit. So thank you. I'll hand it over to Carolyn.
Sorry, a bit slow on my unmute there. Gillian, I think it'd be great to start with that video that we've primed. Thank you.
Okay, will do.
You'll have to bear with the YouTube.
Sorry.
Full screen.
Good. Sorry. I'll just pause it while I try and get the full screen back. Apologies. Sorry.
When I first arrived.
Okay, hold on a sec. Let me just try that again.
Arrived in Fallon in 1987. There was 90 children at the school. There was 2 fuel depots. There was a shop, the pub, the post office, and of course trains every day. So in the early 2000s, unfortunately the railway station closed. Businesses started to shut down. People left the community, and Fallon went from being a bustling rail hub to a community fighting for survival. Well, we bought the hotel in 2010 to help save that business and keep it there for the community, because hotels in these small towns are the heart of the town. In 2012 we moved the post office into the hotel because it looked like it was going to close its doors and we didn't want Fallon to lose its postcode. And in 2013 the whole of the Blonde Shire was drought declared, so we got some funding from FRRR to hold a Drought Busters concert, which we call Just Add Water. And that was a great success to bring the community together and cheer them up in times of drought. So in 2017, after our beautiful silos were painted, we realised we needed to promote them effectively to maximise their benefit for Fallon. And FRRR helped fund this beautiful sign behind me to let people know that the Fallon silos were 30 k's ahead. There's another 2 of these signs on other highways leading into Fallon. FRRR also funded some 10-kilometre facility signs and helped pay for White Rock going on to the campgrounds to give our visitors all-weather access, and they also train tourism ambassadors in Fallon.
In Fallon.
I'll just go back to the presentation. Oh, no, sorry. There we go. You see that?
Thanks, Gillian. Well done. Always a little bit nerve-wracking trying to drive the tech, isn't it? I'm Carolyn Monkton. I'm from the partnerships team at FRRR. I'm on Tangarong country today, which is I'm in the lower end of the Golden Valley in Victoria. Wasn't that a heartwarming little video from Fallon? Just want to make it clear, we didn't fund the pub, but we funded lots of things that have really helped to revitalise that community. If you want to see and hear more great stories from our grantee organisations, we have that YouTube channel that you've seen there briefly. I hope you enjoyed hearing the insights from our program managers. How great were those youth boards in the Northern Territory? Thanks for that, Katrina. What a great story. These insights don't just come from reading applications and talking to community groups on the phone. Carly, Katrina and April are on the road or sometimes in a plane to visit communities and talk with community groups. As you heard, April's in Junee. Hopefully a very loud truck or train isn't going to go past her in the background. And Katrina is off to Cape York next week with another member of our team. Lucky them. Be nice to escape from the Victorian coldness. Small groups address funding inequity to remote, rural and regional communities who have a limited capacity to fundraise or access other funding sources. There just isn't a lot of other flexible funding sources available for volunteer-run groups who may be incorporated but are not registered charities. Community fundraising requires a big effort. Trust me, I baked 150 mini quiches and 5 cakes for a local community fundraiser on the weekend. And that's the thing, FRRR staff members all live in rural and regional Australia, so we also experience the challenges facing these communities. We're close to it. COVID made fundraising even more challenging, and it's been difficult for many community groups to reactivate their efforts and events to raise money to support the work they want to do in their towns and communities. FRRR's support during the application process and feedback loops builds the skills and capabilities of grant applicants. A little bit of funding can go a long way, and can often be the beginning of their journey to secure other grants and funding. Although we have provided more than $6.1 million in funding for projects since 2019, there's a pretty big gap there between 6 million and the 16 million that has been requested in the past 4 years. Next slide, please. Next slide, thanks, Julian. And that's why we've introduced a small grants fund. As you've seen from the program managers, FRRR's small grants for small projects in remote, rural and regional communities can be for basic infrastructure, community events or kickstart initiatives that help keep people and help communities and their people to thrive. To provide stability and sustainability for small grants into the future, we have established the Small Grants Fund. Donations are invested and future income will enable FRRR to fund more projects to address the inequity of funding. It will support FRRR to give these communities the boost they need and deserve. This endowment fund for small grants will provide flexibility for responsive support for community-initiated and led projects and potentially plug any gaps in the funding that is provided by donors. Next slide, please. Here's a quick look at one of our new website pages. It's called Ways to Give. And you can see that we have a Give Now option, which is where donors can support SRC small and vital grants, or the long-term approach. And this is where the Small Grants Fund is presented as an option. Our colleague Hayley has put some URL links into the chat bar there if you want to have a look at those pages. The Small Grants Fund is FRRR's second endowment fund. The other is the Disaster Recovery and Resilience Fund, which was established in 2019 and currently has a value of around $5 million. And its investment income has provided $330,000 for grants. We hope that in the next few years we can build this new fund so that it can support future small and vital grants. Donors can choose to split their donations into now for small and vital grants and for the long term through the Small Grants Fund. Next slide, please. And it's also great to introduce you to another new initiative that FRRR is trialling, Project Activate. Giving to a Project Activate application is a direct opportunity to fund a community project and connect more closely with that project, organisation and community. The applications listed for funding on Project Activate have gone through the rigorous due diligence process applied in the Strengthening Rural Communities program and are recommended by FRRR as worthy of support. However, FRRR didn't have sufficient pool of funds from donors to award grants to them in the latest round. Remember, since 2019, we've received over $16 million worth of applications and awarded $6 million of grants. So there's a big gap there. We invite you to explore these applications. These projects may be in locations that you care about or resonate with you in some other way. This is the opportunity to develop a deeper connection. The total donation indicated on the website is the full amount required to fund the project and covers FRRR's due diligence and support work. FRRR will manage the donation over the life of the funded project, including final reporting of project outcomes. And that's it from us. We hope this presentation has given you some insights into how valuable and important small grants can be for small communities beyond our big cities. So now it's over to you for questions, and you can put the question in the chat bar or raise your hand and ask in person. And let's see what questions or chats we've got so far. Thank you, everybody. As I say, Hayley's put the URL links there to some of these key pages that I've just presented to you. No questions. It's all straightforward. All makes sense. We're very excited about the Small Grants Fund and its potential for the future. And Project Activate, oh, there goes the prezzo. And Project Activate is a new way of being able to fund projects.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes,
It's Ros from Hair Tuck Pocket in Brisbane.
Great.
I'm just wondering, in relation to that Project Activate, how often will that page be updated with the projects?
I think every quarter is the idea.
Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Ros, I'll chip in there. Sarah Maffey here. So the intention there is that the projects are only listed for 3 months, just so that those not-for-profit groups are not waiting for too long as well. Yeah, we'll also be encouraging them to continue to fundraise outside of that, because we don't want them waiting just for that opportunity. And if they are successful through another medium, we'll just remove them at the time that they notify us that they've received support, but we'll make sure that we're listing new projects every quarter also.
Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Because otherwise things might change quite dramatically for them. They might have secured the funding or might have changed their mind, hopefully not, but yeah, we can't keep them on there for too long. There's something in the chat bar. What's that saying? Thanks for the update. My pleasure, our pleasure. Do Carly and April and Katrina have any examples of communities being inspired by each other's successes and sharing their lived expertise of what works? Thanks, Alex.
I can jump in there if you like, Carolyn. So definitely we have groups that are inspired by each other. So a recent one in Victoria was 2 neighbouring communities, Clunes and Creswick, needed a similar type of database to help with their volunteer management and to connect with different training. So they were able, through learning that one was applying to us, they were able to apply separately and to create a kind of bigger project. So there's definitely collaborations. I had a group, Neighbourhood House in Tasmania, contact me. They want to do another project to build capacity with retaining and recruiting volunteers. So they were asking for some examples of recently funded projects so they could actually connect with those groups so they didn't have to reinvent the wheel. So I was able to, because it was publicly available information through our website, just give them a list of some different groups that have done similar things. So yeah, definitely there's a building, and the word does go around that we often have, say, an historical society might get some funding, and then there's a bit of a flourish of other historical societies coming to us because they've learnt that we're a funding avenue. So yeah, there's all that happens out there.
Thanks, Carly. I mean, I think FRRR is in a really unique and special position to be, to have a real macro view of what's going on and to make those connections. Or when we share stories of grants, that's when other community groups can see what's going on and reach out themselves. They might not do it through us, but it's a great way for them to see what else is going on in other areas.
Carolyn, I can also just add too that through our outreach, we actually get to sit down with groups and have that one-on-one conversation with them about what their priorities and needs are. And that's where it's really helpful to have those examples of what we've been able to fund elsewhere. And so when we're on the ground, we're able to make those connections as well.
Yeah, and I can give a live example of that. So yesterday, we were in Goulburn and we met with a community centre in Goulburn, which had never heard of us, which we were quite surprised. So it was great. We sat down with the team from the community centre and other key community groups from the area, and then just heard about the issues. We had representatives from groups supporting youth, groups supporting elderly, groups supporting all the demographics in the community. So it was really great that we could share what other community groups do to support those demographics in their area and the issues that they were talking about. So yeah, we're hoping to see some applications from them. And it always kind of, we think that everyone knows about us, but they don't always. So it's great to, you know, make a connection and then, you know, expand the network.
Just shows there's a lot of small towns out there, and even though we've been around for 22, 23 years, it's hard to reach everybody. Any comments, if that's not questions? Well, we all either talked really quickly or we were generous with our thought that it might take an hour. Nicola's going, thank you. It's my time. It's time for me to say thank you, and a big, big thank you to all of our donors and supporters. Without you, none of this work would be possible. And we think it's really important, and I'm sure you do too. So thank you, and have an extra 15 minutes for lunch. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.